Well, I guess I'll go first. No one else is speaking. My name is Kevin Acosta. I am the Equity Engagement and Outreach Manager with the Office of Equity and Inclusion with the City of Dallas. And this is actually my first time. My colleague actually invited me to this, but because I'm in engagement, I'm very more curious to keep listening. I don't have anything to add at the moment, but I love the conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. And I will just flag that one of our projects that we're supporting is based in Dallas. So maybe we should connect and I can pass along information on that. Maybe there's a way for you all to support each other. Other thoughts, takeaways?
Hey, I can go next. Hi, y'all. My name is Ashin Shukra. I am in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am the narrative and cultural strategist at the GROW Fund, which stands for Georgia Resilience and Opportunity Fund. We run a guaranteed income program focused on Black women. We're on our second phase of the work. And I think my takeaway from the panel was just kind of the focus on artists and in collaboration like amongst different orgs and artists for like advocacy efforts. So how do we engage artists beyond their production? Well, that's something I was thinking too, but I kind of heard, I guess, in the conversation, people maybe naming like, okay, artists writing like the postcards was someone talking, the last person was talking about what the ARPA dot is. I don't remember everyone's name, I'm so sorry. But like, that's artists like kind of engaging in the activity. I think as an artist myself and as someone who's been in like organizing spaces for years, I think that like one of the issues that I have with like sometimes art related to organizing is that it is almost like artists are tools for organizing versus like people who contribute to the overall advocacy and are people who should be advocated for. So yeah, I thought that that was interesting, and it made me think of like with the money that they just received, made me think of orgs like Creatives Rebuilding New York and how they're doing guaranteed income work for artists in New York that isn't tied to like grants or even producing stuff, which I think is like a really dope way to support artists as well. So, my thoughts.
I can hop in here. Hi, everyone. My name is Dominique Drakeford, she, her pronouns, and I'm the Senior Communication Strategist at Betty Ono. One thing that I found interesting during this discussion was lifting up listening sessions. We actually integrate listening sessions to sort of inform and develop our Ending Gender-Based Violence campaign, as that advocacy work is very much BIPOC youth-centered and art-focused. So the thought of integrating listening sessions into our projects and programming specifically for Black Tulip is our Cultural Week of Action for this specific project. Integrating listening sessions on a wider scale and figuring out the most appropriate and intentional ways to integrate that is, I think, really important and really, really interesting. And I think it's really going to inform a connection point so that we're just not curating, but we're actually building bridges with community. So we've done it in very BIPOC youth and art center focused spaces. So widening that scale, I think, is going to be, I think that's a very beautiful and strategic extension of what we can offer and integrate. So I'm excited that that was brought up, and it got our minds thinking about how we can build power through almost these forums, these these organic conversations with community as opposed to just curating. So thank you for that. And this was beautiful.
Thank you both so much for those reflections. Alon, do you want to expand more on what you just shared in the chat in relation to the comment named a moment ago?
Not exactly, because I feel like I've already taken up a lot of space, so make space take space. But I totally agree with the sentiment that, artists are sometimes included at the tail end of organizing and civic engagement efforts to make that poster, make that flyer, or take those pictures. And that we're really, really trying through this programming that we have, and it's on our website. And if anybody would ever like to talk more about it, to just think about all of the ways that someone can contribute regardless of their medium, because everyone, there's a role for everyone, and it doesn't have to always has been. So thank you, Rachel, for extending that.
Hi, this is Chisao, Rachel. I just wanted to lift up the fact that we're retelling history. We're trying to reframe it to correct the stories that have not been shared, have not been told, are not understood, and people don't know or they've forgotten. And there's a continual line in history of how people of color, particularly in Oregon, throughout the country, but the Oregon history of racism and the covenant laws, and particularly the area that we're looking at called Historic Old Town in Portland, has greatly been affected by that to the point of erasure. And it feels like a slap in the face when all our main cultural institutions are located in this particular area. So we want to and excited about making national connections and regional connections with people who are really interested in telling history from our point of view as being communities of color, of what's been lost, of what's not been told correctly, and how we want to move the dialogue forward, holding those histories and holding all of the communities that have been either erased or affected in some ways to the point of being so disenfranchised that we no longer are connected geographically, which was really important in the case of this area in Portland. And one more thing, I wanted to encourage people to look at the Vanport Mosaic website, because Vanport is actually a city that happened during World War II that was between Vancouver and Portland. So it's called Vanport. And that's a history that I'm sure a lot of people east of the Mississippi may not know about. And it includes, Japanese and Chinese history, African-American history, a lot of ways that we commingled historically that we want to go back to and move forward. So, forward.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing. I think we have just a couple more minutes. I want to create space if anyone who hasn't shared yet wants to say anything.
Hi, this is Erica, she, her. I'm in Boston, Massachusetts, and the Institutional Anti-Racism and Accountability Project. I don't have much to add. I just want to share my appreciation for just all of the amazing insight that's been offered, and the reminder for myself of, I guess, outside of any kind of organizing or professional spaces, just the importance and value of like creative practice and art, and as a lens through which to see so many of the both the systemic injustices and beauty like in our communities, and how much that's been I don't know if reinforced is the right word, amplified by what folks have been sharing. So just a lot of appreciation for everyone, both in the panel and in this group for what you've shared. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. Is there someone, when we go back to the full group, we're going to just see if anyone wants to report out or share any kind of takeaways from these small group discussions. I'm happy to do so, but if there's someone who would be excited to report back, I'm happy to cede that opportunity to one of you. Okay. Thought it was worth asking. You never know. You never know. All right. Looks like we've got the breakout rooms are going to close soon. So see you back in there.